Tan arrives at the campground searching for Eun-sang, who's stuck in what can only be described as a hug of awkward intentions with Young-do. It's not the kind of hug you'd post on Instagram. Young-do, ever the romantic, tells Tan to relay his feelings for Eun-sang, claiming she'll believe it more if it comes from him. Meanwhile, Hyo-shin is sitting in the car after driving Tan, but of course, Rachel makes her dramatic entrance. She demands to know if Tan has spoken to Eun-sang, because her engagement is as important as, well, anything that involves her controlling Tan's every move. Tan, like the emotional roller coaster he is, admits it's driving him absolutely bonkers, prompting Rachel to storm off in her perfectly curated fury, leaving behind a cloud of hair flips and I can't even vibes. Back at the campground, Eun-sang is caught in the middle of a gossip storm, with Yesol accusing her of flirting with Young-do. Oh sure, because nothing says, "I'm just being friendly," like throwing someone's shoes into the water, which Young-do does with all the subtlety of a toddler at a tantrum competition. He asked why she lived at Tan's house, and asked if she liked Tan, and she answered honestly, yes. Meanwhile, Rachel's mother has found Young-do's father in a bar, flirting with a hostess. The two of them argue about wedding plans, until Rachel's mother spots Yesol's mom, who's just chilling with Madame Han. Can you imagine the plot twist there? Later, Tan takes Eun-sang for a walk, leading her to a trailer with a fire. Ah yes, nothing says, let's bond like a cozy fire where no one actually knows whether to roast marshmallows or confront their entire emotional baggage. Tan offers her the choice of sleeping inside or outside, but Eun-sang, with a straight face, decides it's time to confuse him further by saying, "Don't let me go." As dawn breaks, Tan and Eun-sang return to camp, and she tells him he's one good thing in her life. But just as Tan's about to give a full-blown love speech, Eun-sang pulls away, but don't worry, Tan's got a move for that. He grabs her hand. Back at the hotel, rumors are swirling about Tan's arrival. Yesol decides to take a shot at Eun-sang, but Rachel glares at her. Meanwhile, Young-do makes a grand entrance and later decides to toss Eun-sang into the pool. Classic. Tan, naturally, shoves Young-do into the pool. At home, Hyo-shin is having an emotional breakdown over his future. Tan's mother is confronting the concubine because that's a normal Tuesday, and then director Young bursts in like she's auditioning for the role of villain you really don't like. Madame Han, not missing a beat, tries to play it cool but gets tangled in a plot twist involving family registry changes and blackmail. Later, Madame Han negotiates with Eun-sang's mother over notebooks. Meanwhile, Rachel thinks dating Young-do would stop the wedding, but he's like, "Nope, I'm into someone else." Big shocker. Later, Tan tries to clear up some misunderstandings with Eun-sang via the mic, switching between being serious and playful like he's hosting a game show. "Let's clear this up, Eun-sang. If you win, you get my undying affection. If you lose, you get more of this confusing mess." Young-do, after all his emotional wreckage, revisits an old hangout, reflecting on losing everything. But like any good anti-hero, he doesn't explain much. And then, just when you think it couldn't get more absurd, Tan pulls Eun-sang into his room. Madame Han sees them and assumes something's going on. So of course she scolds Eun-sang like she just committed a crime against the family's emotional well-being. Tan, in his usual rebellious style, defends Eun-sang because he likes her. Bold move, Tan. Bold move. Later, Tan sends Eun-sang endless messages, but she spends the night at Bona's place. Bona, being the best friend of the century, demands all the details. The next day, Eun-sang has a casual run-in with Young-do at a convenience store, because nothing says, "I'm over this mess," like walking past your emotional chaos in the snack aisle. Tan, sensing danger like a dog sensing a squirrel, pulls Eun-sang's wrist, and for once, Young-do doesn't back down. Eun-sang, fed up, tells Tan, "I can't do this anymore." Tan, Eun-sang, and Young-do's love triangle is unfolding like a slow-motion car crash at a red light. Everyone knows it's coming, but no one's sure how it will play out. Young-do, ever the master of reading the emotional room, remarks that Tan always makes people leave. Eun-sang, wiping away a tear, gets an awkward attempt at sympathy from him. He asks if she's been kidnapped, which is definitely a line that sounds better in his head than it does out loud. She walks off, leaving him in the dust, wondering if maybe his charm works better in the movies. The drama continues as Tan and Eun-sang end up in the same gym class. Tan stares at her from across the gym like a confused puppy, but she only notices when Chan Young and Bona arrive. Classic. Tan, suspecting there's more to this than just gym class, asks Chan Young if Eun-sang spent the night with him. In the locker room, Tan takes it to the next level and asks Young-do if Eun-sang was crying earlier. Young-do naturally refuses to answer, and Tan, in his ever-subtle way, claims he's the one who has a chance with her, not Young-do. The man's confidence is only rivaled by his delusion. Meanwhile, Young-do is busy on his computer, browsing through photos of Eun-sang. His friends, Bona and Myung-soo, innocently ask if he likes her. The answer is a slow realization on his part, as he admits he does. Back at home, Tan's mother, ever the voice of reason, questions him about his feelings for Eun-sang. Tan, in rare form, goes off on her, asking if she's happy living in the shadows. His mother explains it's all for his future, but Tan calls her out, pointing out that if he marries Rachel, he'll never even be able to introduce her to the world. He ends the conversation with a light-hearted demand for the bunny socks she's been wearing, clearly defying her authority with a level of emotional maturity that only a teenager can muster. Meanwhile, Eun-sang spends the day hunting for an apartment. She calls her mom for clothes, but Tan is left feeling like his emotional compass is malfunctioning. He confides in Hyoshin, revealing the bombshell that Director Young isn't his biological mother. This revelation shocks Hyoshin, and Tan admits he's still working up the courage to confess the whole truth. One begins to suspect manager Yoon is up to something, especially after Yoon presents him with an article about Hyunju working at Jaeguk. Turns out, Yoon's been playing a behind-the-scenes game of manipulation and intrigue. Tan confronts his father at home, where Hyunju, looking more nervous than a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, is waiting. His father, in full tyrant mode, scolds Hyunju for dating Won, blaming her for ruining his perfectly laid plans. Hyunju leaves in tears, and Won is left utterly confused. Later, Tan finds Hyunju crying on the street. He asks if she's okay, but she only tells him to keep his brother away from her. Back at home, Eun-sang's mother is about to leave, and Madame Han, trying to mask her distress, tries to act like everything is fine. Spoiler alert, it's not fine. Madame Han can't quite shake the sadness about the change. Eun-sang meets her mother outside a convenience store where Young-do unexpectedly appears. He invites her to eat, but she quickly redirects him to avoid her mother seeing them together. She lies, telling her mother she's staying with a friend. When Eun-sang meets Young-do later, he uncovers her secret about why she lives at Tan's, but instead of getting angry, he admits he's unsure of his feelings. He's just glad to see her again. How charming, until you realize his emotional turmoil probably involves more than just a simple crush. Meanwhile, the tension at the golf outing hits new heights when Young-do asks if the school would be more shocked by Tan being the son of a concubine or Eun-sang being the daughter of a housekeeper. Tan, not one to back down, warns Young-do to stay away from Eun-sang. Young-do, ever the troublemaker, threatens to spill their secrets if Tan doesn't protect her. Tan warns he'll revert to his old self, vowing to destroy everything Young-do's father has. Young-do, being Young-do, mocks Tan for being an illegitimate child, but Tan, undeterred, asserts he's still his father's son. Ah, the sweet smell of family dysfunction. Flashback time. Tan had once warned Young-do he'd regret his actions, and now, in a moment of rare empathy, Tan explains that Young-do lost his chance with his mother because he was too obsessed with beating Tan. Back at school, Eun-sang is disappointed when Tan walks past her without acknowledging her, and Bona, trying to play matchmaker, drops the bomb that Young-do likes Eun-sang. Tan, doing his best impression of a person who has it all together, enters and pretends his main goal is to be near Eun-sang, though Bona is convinced he's there for her. Tan cryptically says he missed her, but naturally doesn't clarify who she is. The mystery continues. Later, Tan apologizes to Director Young for ruining brunch with Rachel's family, and, in a perfect storm of passive aggression, suggests hosting a dinner. Meanwhile, Rachel uncovers the truth about Yesol's mom being a salon madame, and Director Young sees this dinner as the perfect time to confront Madame Han. When Madame Han sees the family photo, she breaks down. Meanwhile, Tan, with all the grace of a person who's already been through too much, asks, "Are you happy now that you moved out? Happy now that you let go of my hand?" Eun-sang tries to send Tan away, but he kisses her, because nothing says, "I'm still here," like a dramatic kiss. He teases her about the red light incident and asks why she didn't check on him. She denies missing him, but he kisses her again, daring her to lie. He then tells her not to go home tonight, no matter who calls, because what's a love triangle without a few late-night ultimatums? At the house of two moms, Madame Han refuses to leave, but Young calls her bluff. Tan arrives late, apologizes, and takes Rachel to his room, but he's not done yet. Once they're alone, Tan warns he's about to show her exactly what Young-do saw. Meanwhile, Madame Young is rubbing her power by throwing water in Madame Han's face, humiliating her in front of Tan. Tan wipes the water off her face. Tan, finally fed up with the lies, publicly acknowledges Madame Han as his biological mother and declares himself an illegitimate child. In a move that surprises absolutely no one, he breaks off his engagement with Rachel and challenges his father, saying, "If you want to kick me out, take responsibility for her." His father slaps him, but Tan, in a rare moment of defiance, refuses to apologize. Meanwhile, Eun-sang steps outside and finds Tan waiting. As soon as Tan sees her, tears fill his eyes. Sensing his turmoil, Eun-sang embraces him. Meanwhile, Rachel and her mother are on the warpath. The engagement is essentially in ruins, but Rachel's mother decides to play the long game, planning to leverage the Kim brothers' rivalry to line her pockets when the stock prices rise. Rachel, clearly not one for subtlety, confronts Young-do for withholding the truth. Young-do advises her to keep it a secret, saying that protecting Tan is both the best and worst thing he's ever done for him. Seeking solace, Tan and Eun-sang escape to Myung-soo's workshop for the night. Tan naturally jokes about penguins, because when in doubt, penguins. Then, in the most casual power move possible, Tan rejects a call from Young-do, declares himself Eun-sang's boyfriend, and promptly gets jealous over old photos of her with Young-do. In response, Eun-sang teases him about his less than stellar grades. A delicate balance of romance and sarcastic humor, perfect for a Wednesday night. The next morning, Myung-soo, being the world's least subtle friend, ambushes them outside. Tan, wearing his emotional armor, openly admits their relationship to the world, and they march into school hand in hand, drawing stares like they're both the star attraction at a circus. Meanwhile, Young-do, never one to back down from a challenge, tries to stop Eun-sang, but Tan, in full dramatic flair, dares him to spread the secret. Later, Rachel confronts Tan in the broadcast room, and Eun-sang, and Tan, fed up with the whole charade, breaks off his engagement with her in a way that says, "I don't need this, thanks." Tan waits outside the restroom, nervously relieved when Bona confirms that Eun-sang spent the night with her. Eun-sang, sensing Tan's distress, asks if she can help and lifts his spirits. Elsewhere, Yesol, the queen of drama, taunts several students about her own family secret. Rachel, not one to miss an opportunity to humiliate her, uses this to throw Yesol under the bus. In the cafeteria, Young-do spilled food on Tan. Tan, never one to back down, threw his coat on his and told him to wash it, but Eun-sang interrupted and pushed Tan out. At home, things take a darker turn. Tan's father, having clearly forgotten what love is, cuts him off financially and kicks him out. Tan, ever the emotionally complex character, accepts the punishment, but insists that his engagement with Rachel won't define him. His mother pleads with him to reconsider, but Tan, in one of his rare moments of independence, chooses his own path. Tan goes to Eun-sang's workplace and asks for a taxi fare. She scolds him, but still supports him. Tan, oblivious to the struggles others face, jokes about working hard to make his fortune. Trying to find somewhere to stay, Tan is met with rejection from his friends, who are about as helpful as a screen door on a submarine. Hyo-shin, feeling the weight of his own emotional baggage, is forced by his mother to attend a missed interview, a moment that pushes him to his breaking point. Hyo-shin asks, "Do I have to die for this to stop?" His mother, however, remains unyielding. Madame Han, ever the dramatic figure, visits Eun-sang's cafe, criticizing her for not going home. She expresses genuine concern, urging Eun-sang to return home for both their sakes. Tan, of course, refuses to go back with her, but Eun-sang agrees, which is basically her way of showing that even though they're in the midst of chaos, they can still make small sacrifices for each other. Later, Tan, needing to lean on someone, heads to Won's hotel room. Initially rejected, he eventually gets let in. They have dinner together. Won gets a call about the Jaeguk stocks being transferred to support Tan, and Tan, ever the observant one, overhears part of the conversation. He asks if it involves him, and Won, in an unexpectedly brotherly move, gives him a credit card and tells him to get his own room. In a perfect twist of fate, Tan tries to check into a hotel, but is denied because Young-do posted a picture of him with a note reading, "Kim Tan, do not allow." And Young-do, ever the thorn in his side, appears, gloating like a villain. Tan, however, surprises him by choosing to return to his brother's place. Tan crashes on Won's couch. The next morning, Tan asks for a ride back to school, but changes his mind when he sees Hyunju walking toward the school. Won hesitates, clearly unsure whether to follow her or protect his own sanity. A tea school? Eun-sang senses Tan's lie about his night and offers him pastries as a peace offering. They joke about their slow-moving relationship, and Tan teases her about the rooftop kiss. Hyo-shin, meanwhile, attends his interview reluctantly, still dismissing the fabricated story his mother's trying to sell. Madam Young scolds Tan for breaking off his engagement and warns him that his exposure could jeopardize the family's position. At the cafe, Young-do, clearly not over his obsession with Eun-sang, shows up, hoping for her attention. She deliberately ignores him, which is exactly what he deserves. Eventually, he spills his drink in a childish attempt to provoke her, and Eun-sang reluctantly sits with him. He demands more attention, but she shuts him down, firm in her rejection. Young-do, finally realizing that harassment is not a sustainable strategy, admits that tormenting her hurts but vows to make everyone's life miserable, including Tan's. Later, in true villain fashion, Young-do hijacks the school PA system to announce Tan's secret, like it's the most dramatic thing to happen since sliced bread. Eun-sang, in a race against time, tries to stop him, but Tan, calm and collected, walks toward the broadcasting room. Young-do, in a last-ditch attempt to control the narrative, locks the door before Tan can enter, vowing to torment everyone, including Tan. Tan kicked open the door, but Eun-sang, all teary-eyed and dramatic, stopped him. She insisted Tan not cause a scene, which of course only made Tan escort her out like a bodyguard in a bad action movie. Tan warned Young-do to back off, but Young-do, looking like a sad puppy with a vendetta, said he wouldn't stop unless Tan let Eun-sang go. Tan just rolled his eyes, called him childish, and vowed to rise from this mess like a phoenix, if the phoenix was really tired. Later, Rachel asked Young-do about his tantrum with Tan. He, being the passive-aggressive champ he is, pointed out how obsessed she was with Tan, even though he wasn't into her. Eun-sang asked Tan the same thing later, and Tan responded with a laugh about their love triangle, because why not make it awkward? Tan joked about regretting everything, and Young-do hating himself. Meanwhile, Bona faked an injury, but Chan-young, who's either oblivious or a genius, completely ignored it. Later, Ye-sol asked Eun-sang to grab a script from Myung-soo's workshop because she was too scared. Eun-sang found Young-do there, sporting a bruised lip. She offered him a band-aid, but he rejected it. Then Young-do awkwardly asked for the bandage after all. Eun-sang, probably too nice for her own good, gave it to him. Madame Han, worried about being left behind, had her moment interrupted by Rachel. Rachel tried to convince her she wouldn't break up with Tan, calling her mother. But then, Rachel dropped the bomb about Madame Han posing as Eun-sang's mom at the PTA meeting. Madame Han, with the poker face of a professional, explained they were just friends. Rachel, clearly upset, noticed Eun-sang's uniform hanging, which meant she was probably plotting her next attack. The next morning, Eun-sang discovered her uniform was missing and confronted Rachel, who acted like a villain from a Disney Channel movie, admitting to throwing it away. Rachel mocked her for pretending to be rich, and Eun-sang slapped her. Rachel, clearly trying to be a supervillain, threatened to expose Tan's birth secret, unless Eun-sang transferred schools. Eun-sang said she'd consider it, just to protect Tan. Tan overheard, and naturally decided it was time for some drama. He ordered Eun-sang to walk away while he dealt with Rachel, making threats about how he'd have hit her if she weren't a woman. Very progressive, Tan. He was mad that Eun-sang treated him like he didn't matter, but she reminded him he already had enough family drama. Tan, looking deep into his soul, admitted his life was a battle. Eun-sang, being the emotional support we all need, softly said, "It isn't yours either, Kim Tan." Tan, ever the optimist, suggested they run away together, because why not? As punishment for their epic fight, Tan and Young-do were ordered to bring family members to counseling. Young-do had to bring his dad, good luck with that, and Tan had to drag his older brother, Won, along. Bona, during an on-air blunder, accidentally confessed to Chan-young, and then, like any embarrassed teen, fled in a dramatic rush. Hyunju and Hyo-shin had a heart-to-heart about her new job, which of course was all super serious, except they were in a world where everything was oddly hilarious. Tan had a bonding moment with Won, discussing corporate battles. Meanwhile, manager Yoon discovered that Won had fired everyone, and soon the chairman received this news too. Walking with Eun-sang, Tan jokingly said he wanted to hold her hand. When she offered it, Tan decided to pull a move straight out of a rom-com and back-hugged her, wrapping her in the coat. Then, of course, Eun-sang found money in the coat, and Tan reacted like he had just won the lottery. Later, manager Yoon summoned Tan, confirming the family business battle had begun. Yoon warned that Tan was next on the list after one finished with Chairman Dad. Rachel, in full villain mode, texted Young-do, manipulating him to lead her to where Eun-sang works. He warned Eun-sang that Rachel had figured her out, and Eun-sang, confident as ever, remained calm. That's when Young-do realized he had feelings for her. Cute, right? Later, Eun-sang received a catering order for the same address as Chan-young's party. She told Tan, but still planned to do her job. At the party, Rachel smirked when Eun-sang walked in, and everyone stared like she was the guest of honor at an awkward family reunion. Tan stormed in, flipping a table and dragging Eun-sang out. He asked why she was doing this, and she explained she wasn't ashamed of being poor, but didn't want to keep pretending to be rich. Tan, finally realizing he wasn't in a sitcom, agreed to let her continue. When Eun-sang admitted she worked part-time because she wasn't rich, the group laughed. Tan, ever the dramatic actor, introduced her as charity case Eun-sang and himself as bastard child Kim Tan. The crowd was stunned, and Rachel was speechless. Young-do, clearly not into this drama, walked out. Tan, now fully embracing the awkwardness, joined Eun-sang at the party. He untied her apron, let her hair down, and tied a corsage. He then kissed her on the forehead. Young-do goes into full meltdown mode, scolding Rachel for bringing Eun-sang to the party like it's the worst thing anyone could do. He warns her dramatically that it's over now that he knows about Eun-sang's. Rachel, of course, mocks him like a schoolyard villain, taunting him. Young-do left as she was standing. Rachel convinces Hyo-shin to come to the party, ignoring his exam concerns because who needs exams when you have drama? Meanwhile, Madam Han and Eun-sang's mom are busy channeling their inner burglars, cracking open Chairman Dad's safe and finding photos of Tan and Won with their girlfriends, one of which leaves Madam Han so stunned. At the party, Tan and Eun-sang exchange longing glances. Meanwhile, Hyo-shin pretends the exam was a piece of cake, despite clearly looking like someone who hasn't cracked open a book since elementary school. Rachel, ever the social assassin, mocks Tan's girlfriend for being poor, but Tan responds with, "I hope you find happiness," like he's auditioning for a Hallmark commercial. Rachel, green with jealousy, kisses Hyo-shin right in front of Hyunju, freezing her like a deer caught in headlights. Hyo-shin, perhaps realizing how much more awkward he can make things, kisses Rachel again to prove he has absolutely no feelings for her. Classic Hyo-shin move. Bona, sick of all the public PDA, storms off. Later, Tan plays the noble knight and helps a drunk Eun-sang home, where she, in a rare moment of honesty, admits she likes him. Their heart-to-heart is interrupted by a call from Madam Han, who orders Tan to apologize to Rachel to fix the engagement. At home, Hyo-shin faces his parents' wrath for skipping his exam, because no one gets to be a messed-up teen without consequences. His dad insists on law school, ignoring Hyo-shin's protests, like he's just another pawn in a Korean drama. Later, Hyo-shin, probably feeling the weight of his bad life choices, apologizes for kissing Rachel, claiming it was just to make a point. Tan cracks a joke, but things take a turn for the serious when Eun-sang, still traumatized by being the star of every mean girl's gossip session, is confronted by, you guessed it, the mean girls. Young-do swoops in, casually saying he's not her Black Knight, because clearly, he's just here to ruin lives, and jokes that if Tan gets to be her prince, he's out. Ouch, Young-do. Tan and Young-do are thrown into detention, where they're humiliated by their terrible test scores. Young-do's dad, in a shocking display of fatherly love, sarcastically congratulates him for beating Tan at something. Meanwhile, Won scolds Tan, but Tan surprisingly enjoys it like it's some weird form of attention. Hyunju and Won have a serious chat about her fear of her past being exposed, because, let's be real, no one's life is boring in this universe. Madam Han, doing her best villain impersonation, forces Rachel's mom to end the engagement using the ever-powerful, compromising photo tactic. Her and Yoon kissing. At school, Hyunju assigns a reading project that no one cares about. Tan and Young-do, being the troublemakers they are, join Eun-sang's group, only for Eun-sang to announce they're watching the movie instead of reading. Later, Eun-sang notices Tan's guards outside his house, confirming that he's basically imprisoned by his family's wealth. Fun times. Tan confronts Chairman Dad about the broken engagement, but his dad, ever the loving parent, threatens to harm Eun-sang instead. Tan stands firm, but Daddy locks him in his room and posts guards. Rachel, in full diva mode, confronts her mom for meddling in her life, because clearly, Rachel's never met a dramatic conversation she didn't like. Meanwhile, Young-do drops Eun-sang at Tan's house. Chairman Dad makes sweeping demands at a family conference, telling Madam Young to find a suitable bride for Won, while threatening Madam Han with losing everything if she doesn't raise Tan right. He also demotes Manager Yoon to Tan's personal tutor, which Manager Yoon passes on to Chan Young, who jokes about becoming the family breadwinner. At school, Eun-sang confides in Young-do about Tan's situation, and Young-do, ever the emotional rock, denies being her friend, but offers support. Meanwhile, Tan tries to leave for school but is detained by guards. Manager Yoon shows up to continue Tan's lessons in how to be an heir to a corrupt business empire, but Tan, disgusted by everything, rejects it. Ignoring Young-do's protests, Eun-sang sits with him at lunch. The students gossip about Tan's secret life, like it's the juiciest gossip. Chairman Dad tries to stop the gossip train by transferring shares to Tan, framing it as a power struggle because this family has zero chill. Young-do, with his own set of bodyguards, visits Tan's house and gets praised by Chairman Dad like he's the golden child. Young-do informs Tan of the news, and Tan, plotting his escape like it's a heist movie, decides to wear Young-do's helmet to sneak out. It's a decent plan until it's immediately ruined when his disguise is exposed. But hey, it wasn't actually Tan and Itui's Tan, just enough time to escape unnoticed. Tan confronts Won, pleading for his trust and offering to give up his shares to stay. Won, in his infinite wisdom, insists Tan leave for the US, but Tan, like the emotional roller coaster he is, refuses to give up anything. Tan dramatically declares that if Won wants his shares, he'll have to take them. Eun-sang agrees to Chairman Dad's ultimatum: spend 2 weeks in Tan's life as a condition for a one-way ticket out of Korea. Her mother believes the financial issues are resolved, unaware the chairman has secretly cleared their debts and subtly pushed Eun-sang away. Eun-sang heads upstairs to Tan, who mistakes her arrival for another sneaky attempt to escape the guards. She plays along, saying she missed him. Tan, feeling guilty, explains that being locked up was the only way to stay close to her and asks her to trust him. Won meets with Manager Yoon, who suggests he try to understand Tan's perspective. However, Won remains suspicious. Yoon, on the other hand, considers an offer from Won. At school, reporters swarm Eun-sang, but Young-do steps in with humor to deflect the attention. Eun-sang's locker is trashed, and Young-do orders soy milk to find the culprit. Eun-sang rejects his tactics and shares the milk with Bona and Chan Young, who grow suspicious. Later, Eun-sang gives Bona a childhood photo of Chan Young and says goodbye without revealing her feelings. Tan storms into his father's office after hearing about Eun-sang's potential departure. He demands his phone back, threatening to use his shares as leverage, and warns his father to stay away from her. Tan finds Eun-sang's plane ticket in Myung-soo's workshop and confronts her, hurt and angry. She admits she was scared. Unexpectedly, Young-do joins them, and Tan asks him to look after Eun-sang. At a family dinner, Chairman Dad announces a stockholder vote to dismiss Won. Tan walks away defiantly, while Won wonders if Manager Yoon has been scheming behind his back. Tan later finds Young-do and thanks him for helping him escape, sharing a surprisingly cordial moment. At home, Tan defends his mother and confronts his father about hiding his personal life. He warns his father not to test him again. Meanwhile, Won urges Hyunju to leave for America, but she refuses. Tan texts Eun-sang to meet, taking her passport in fear she might leave without telling him. He apologizes for his actions, and they share a tender kiss. Gossip about Tan, Rachel, and Hyoshin spreads. Eun-sang asks Tan to avoid her in the hallways, but Tan teases her, and she clarifies it's the awkwardness, not the gossip. Tan agrees to back off. Won meets with stockholders, securing support from Rachel's mother and Young-do's father. Tan strikes a deal with Won. He'll side with him if Eun-sang gets an apartment and car to keep her away from their father. Tan vows to do anything for her, surprising Won. Young-do waits outside Tan's house but finds Eun-sang gone. He later finds her at a convenience store, where they talk about the first time he helped her. She teases him for being both a bad and good guy. He asks her not to leave, but she insists on meeting Tan. As she walks away, he tells her to treat the next guy well. One prepares the apartment and car for Tan, reminding him not to miss the stockholder meeting. Tan, feeling untrusted, seems resigned. Eun-sang window shops while waiting for Tan, haunted by his father's accusations. Tan surprises her with a back hug, and they share a sweet moment. She buys matching sneakers for them, but Tan later takes her to see her new apartment, apologizing for being overbearing. Eun-sang seems uneasy. The stockholder vote to dismiss Won fails. Won wins, but it's clear his father orchestrated the outcome. Tan's victory comes too late. Eun-sang is already gone. Tan comes home to find his love nest suspiciously empty, and his father coldly informs him that pursuing Eun-sang will ruin her life. Tan demands answers, but Chairman Dad just blames him for everything like a bad Netflix villain, throwing out warnings like he's distributing candy. Meanwhile, Chan Young casually asks manager Yoon about Eun-sang's disappearance, but Yoon gives nothing but the world's longest silent stare. Great. Now we've got another non-responder. Eun-sang's withdrawal from school is announced, and her empty seat becomes the talk of the school. Bo-na, ever the comedic relief, jokes that Eun-sang might be getting harassed. Tan storms into a showdown with Chan Young, demanding answers. Chan Young, looking mildly perturbed, blames Tan for all of Eun-sang's problems and walks off like a stormy cloud. Enter Young-do, who joins the chaos, and we all just sit back and wait for Chan Young to leave in frustration. Tan, still on the case, pleads with Madam Young to stop the school withdrawal. Meanwhile, Young-do's playing Sherlock by searching Broadcasting Club records, and Hyoshin's got his international flight tracker on high alert. All we need now is a spy drone, and we're good to go. At the Jaeguk Moms' meeting, Rachel's mother is like, "Thanks, I hate it," as she faces sarcastic congratulations. Meanwhile, Yoon gets promoted, probably because of his impeccable skills in looking busy during meetings. Tan reviews security footage like a tech-savvy detective, but instead of solving mysteries, just finds Eun-sang waving at the camera. Young-do, being Young-do, posts a mixed message on his hotel website because, subtlety is overrated. Tan's chasing clues tracked Eun-sang's card to a beach town, but he stalls like a car with no gas when it comes to confronting her. Meanwhile, Eun-sang's living the bookstore life now, probably stocking books titled How to Avoid Tan's Family Drama. 101. Eun-sang gets a call from the police, and Young-do's lawyer tracks her down. They go for a beach walk, because why not make the police chase a bit more poetic? Young-do promises he'll stay out of her life, but well, we all know it is not happening. Young-do, bless his heart, confesses his feelings to his dad. Dad's response? A big ol' scoff and a "you're on your own, kid." So much for family support. Meanwhile, Rachel's mom cancels the wedding, but it's a win for Rachel because Young-do gets a free pass. Tan, being Tan, tells his brother he's willing to give up everything. In return, he plans to see Eun-sang one last time and say goodbye. Eun-sang doesn't buy it, saying he's been trouble from day one. Ouch. Tan walks away, and now he's just crying in the rain. At home, Tan locks himself in his room, having an existential crisis while throwing things around. Tan, still spiraling out of school. He gets caught speeding because, of course, he's channeling his inner reckless brother. One tries to talk some sense into Chairman Dad, but Dad's just like, meh, Tan's weak. So, Tan's crumbling, and Dad's chilling like a robot. Rachel, mortified after her awkward conversation with Hyoshin, tries to brush it off, but Hyoshin's radar for discomfort is at full blast. Tan's continuing his downward spiral. He shows up at the Jaeguk anniversary event. Rumors start flying, and he gets into a fight at a nightclub. Guess who steps in? Young-do, of course, who proceeds to exchange blows with Tan. Exhausted, they collapse. Young-do's like, go see Eun-sang if you want her so badly. Tan, on the other hand, drops the ultimate bombshell. You take her. At home, Tan faces the firing squad. Madam Han, Won, and Chairman Dad, all of whom take turns criticizing him. Chairman Dad, ever the loving figure, demands Tan go to the hospital, probably just to get a better look at his bruised ego. Tan, desperate, asks when he's getting sent to America, begging Won to save him. Spoiler alert, Won's not feeling very heroic today. Won meets with Young-do, who mocks Tan's vulnerability like it's his job. But then Won fires back with a truth bomb, telling Young-do that Tan has no real friends and to get over himself and treat Tan's wounds. Bona's fuming when she catches Chan-young obsessing over Eun-sang's posts. It's a full-on meltdown. Except that Eun-sang deletes everything, leaving Tan to flounder in his own emotional whirlpool. Hyo-shin, the philosopher of the group, advises Tan to see Eun-sang to ease his pain, which is kind of like recommending a diet soda to someone eating a whole pizza. Young-do visits Eun-sang's house, and her mom greets him like an old friend. He's touched by the home-cooked meal, but surprise, Eun-sang's not home. Instead, she's allegedly dealing with paperwork. Or maybe plotting with Chairman Dad. Chairman Dad accuses Eun-sang of overstepping. She stands her ground, casually admitting she likes Tan, dropping the bomb like it's nothing. Tan and Eun-sang meet at a dreamcatcher shop because where else? They just stare at each other awkwardly. Tan follows her home, watches her cry like a stalker, and then hugs her, declaring, "I can't let you go." At the Kim house, Chairman Dad blames Madam Han for Tan's behavior, citing her background. She reminds him he brought her into this mess. One invites Hyunju for a sleepover, and they have a deep conversation about the future. Hyunju encourages him to follow his dreams. Eun-sang posts a Wonder Boy quote in the bookstore window. One asks if she's sticking with Tan or going back to her old life. Eun-sang, mysterious as ever, says she's focusing on exams. Later, Tan finds a goodbye note from her, and the heartbreak hits hard. But the story completely shifts. The next morning, Eun-sang returns to school, sits next to Tan, and declares she won't run anymore. They embrace, while Young-do pretends to be indifferent. Bona and Chan-young greet Eun-sang like she's been gone forever. Tan, determined to prove he's not a mess, focuses on exams, while the tension with Young-do simmers in the hallway. Young-do confronts Eun-sang in the broadcast room about the debt she owes him. They go for the noodles. Young-do asks if she's ready to fight for Tan. Eun-sang says she's willing to try. Young-do, in lovesick despair, warns her to give up if it's too hard. Eun-sang tells Bona she's staying with Tan at Myung-soo's studio. Tan admits he missed her and that he would die without her, swearing to never laugh or fall in love again. Spoiler, they're both hopeless romantics. The next morning, Tan jokes about Eun-sang studying all night, but she cuts him off. Madam Han calls Tan to tell him she might not be home, but unexpectedly, she's packing to leave. Chairman Dad sends her to the States to sort her feelings. Classic forced family bonding. Madam Han sneaks out with Young-do's help. Chairman Dad, stuck in the past, plans Tan's 18th birthday press conference, but Tan rebels and shows up anyway. It's part of the family business. One, showing rare humanity, gives Tan a villa for Madam Han, acknowledging his role in her troubles. At the press conference, Tan arrives with Eun-sang, ready to face the world. The Jaeguk family gathers for Tan's birthday. And by family, I mean the whole circus, including Chairman Dad's siblings and their cake-hunting kids. Everyone pretends to care about Chairman Dad's health, flashing fake smiles like it's an Olympic sport. Tan makes an entrance with Eun-sang, and the paparazzi go wild. Chairman Dad and Madam Jung freeze like statues, while one looks like he just saw a ghost. Tan's defiance is a breath of fresh air compared to one and his fiancée, who secretly date regular people, but never let it show. Tan stands firm when his father pulls him aside, dramatically declaring that nothing matters more than Eun-sang. Despite Chairman Dad's glare, he gives a reluctant approval, probably just to avoid looking like the villain. Tan and Eun-sang share a brief moment of relief, but we all know it's temporary. Tan and Eun-sang visit his mom, bringing her cake and a necklace. Madam Han shows up in a car, adding a plot twist. She and Tan's mom share a heartfelt reunion, probably the most touching moment this family's had. Tan visits Young-do to clear the air about their complicated relationships with their mothers. Tan and Eun-sang are summoned by one to discuss her moving into an apartment. But surprise, she's moving back in with her mom. Tan insists they'll be together forever, while Eun-sang hits him with a "for now." Tan asks his mom for approval of their relationship. After a heated argument, Tan dramatically steps in front of Eun-sang when his mom raises her hand. It's a Romeo and Juliet moment, minus the tragic ending. Tan's mom begrudgingly accepts them. Tan surprises Eun-sang with a romantic slideshow of their moments together. She's mildly creeped out, but Tan chases her around the room, trying to win her over. At school, the mean girls gossip about Rachel, who's still reeling from her broken engagement. Young-do reassures her, suggesting they pretend to get along for world peace. Awkward kindness ensues. Tan and Eun-sang check their exam rankings. Tan discovers he's in 50th place. just passing. Eun-sang, classic as always, avoids revealing her own ranking. Young-do trains judo and eventually takes down his father. His simple reward request: Mom. Spoiler, his dad can't deliver. He later finds a business card from a cafe owner, setting up future caffeine-filled drama. The broadcasting club collaborates with another school, sparking jealousy when Tan and Eun-sang argue with Bona and Chan-young over other boys. It turns into a sitcom-level bickerfest, but Tan gifts Eun-sang a wallet as a peace offering. Tan's mom insists on a simple life, rejecting his offer to move to a nicer place. She wants to travel and enjoy life, while Tan's stuck trying to save the world, one family member at a time. He assures her she'll always be his family. Suddenly, Chairman Dad collapses from a brain hemorrhage, and the family rushes to the hospital. Madam Young starts plotting to take control of Jaeguk, offering the chairman's siblings and nephews a chance to back her. Meanwhile, Young-do faces a legal raid on his father's office. His father tells him to stay out of it. At the hospital, Madam Young tries to convince Tan his father won't recover, suggesting he shouldn't trust her. Tan refuses to back down and threatens to transfer his guardianship to Won. Because why not escalate things? Tan and Young-do find themselves on a rooftop, each lost in thought about their fathers. Tan, under his brother Won's legal guardianship, braces for a shareholders meeting that turns out to be more like a lonely support group. Just 2 managers show up. Meanwhile, Madam Young's family huddles in secrecy, plotting with the enthusiasm of a sitcom villain. VP Yoon sends Tan abroad to secure shares, leaving him baffled at how his father managed such a high-stress existence. Eun-sang hears about Chairman Dad's collapse from Chan-young and discovers a note from Tan. Meanwhile, Young-do suffers through a dinner with his father, who offers a strange reassurance. Life goes on, even if you're in prison. The next day, Young-do learns his father's indictment is no empty threat. His lawyers suggest calm, but his father's cryptic mantra, "There need to be rules, you can't cheat," echoes in his mind. Seeking redemption, Young-do visits Jun-young to apologize for his bullying. Jun-young, offering zero forgiveness, suggests he live with the guilt indefinitely. Outside his mother's cafe, Young-do hides when she glances his way. Overwhelmed, he begins to cry, the weight of his emotions too much to bear. Tan and Won return from their travels to a sprinkling of praise. Won, ever pragmatic, suggests they live together to present a unified front, though their bond remains as frosty as ever. Won asks Tan to secure power of attorney for their father's shares, while Tan, not missing a beat, requests Won continue with the Zeus project, keeping their family chess game in motion. Later, Tan visits Eun-sang, and their reunion is warm and full of relief. He then apologizes to Young-do for letting business blur personal boundaries. Young-do, perceptive as ever, guesses that Madam Young is vying for control of the company and makes a passing joke about difficult mothers. Though they're far from friends, Tan promises to repay Young-do's favor if he assists. Young-do asks Tan to forgive his earlier harsh words about Tan's mother before quietly returning to his dishwashing duties. VP Yoon meets with Rachel's mother, persuading her to support Tan and Won in the shareholders' meeting. Meanwhile, Won agrees to a strategic engagement with his potential fiancé in exchange for her vote. The brothers secure the majority at the shareholders' meeting, but Madam Young reminds them that her schemes are far from over. Soon after, news breaks that Chairman Dad has woken up and is heading into surgery. The family gathers anxiously outside the operating room. When the surgery ends successfully, Madam Han breaks into tears, earning a sharp rebuke from Tan. Elsewhere, Young-do gathers his courage and enters his mother's cafe. She pulls him into a hug, and he hesitantly says the word mom. At school, Hyo-shin hands Eun-sang his books and thanks her for being a bright spot in his life, a gesture that feels like a subtle goodbye. Concerned for Rachel's sleeplessness, her mother suggests a winter trip, which Rachel reluctantly accepts. At the doctor's office, Rachel encounters Hyo-shin, who casually drops the bombshell that he's enlisting in the army. Later, Tan rushes to the train station to bid Hyo-shin farewell, and despite the awkwardness, they exchange a sincere hug. Eun-sang's mother prepares extra bean powder for her older daughter, who has recently found a job. Motivated by this, Eun-sang decides to reach out to her sister, extending a small olive branch despite their differences. Meanwhile, Chairman Dad, now awake, announces his plan to divorce Madam Young. Unbothered, she coolly declares she'll take as much as possible in the settlement, including half of Jaeguk. Tan takes Eun-sang to visit Chairman Dad, who remains aloof but accepts the books she brought him. Later, Tan takes his mother for a walk. Chan-young, VP Yoon, Won, and Tan embark on a fishing trip, though Tan's impatience makes it clear he'd rather be elsewhere. Jokes about academic rankings fly, and Tan, despite his 50th place finish, becomes the target of light-hearted teasing. Chan-young predictably secures the top spot. After the trip, Won announces his engagement. Hyunju, devastated, breaks their old wishbone in a symbolic farewell and leaves him. When Tan questions Won about the sudden wedding, Won brushes it off as part of his responsibilities. Tan is reminded once again that his future is tied to the family business, leaving little room for his own aspirations. Young-do revisits the bike shop and reflects on his past interactions with Eun-sang. He uses the band-aid she once gave him to patch up a wound. As a senior, Tan receives his journal back from an old professor who challenges him to reconsider the crown he's chasing. Reflecting on the ongoing power struggles within his family, Tan begins to understand the sacrifices that have been made. Meanwhile, Won, sitting alone at their father's desk, finally breaks down, burdened by the weight of his ambitions. Tan moves through his final year of high school, navigating tensions and personal growth. He and Eun-sang share dreams of a bright future where everyone finds happiness. In reality, they focus on supporting each other, tackling their challenges head-on as they step forward. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.